what did you make of ultimately Google wanting to basically outshine what OpenAI put out there yesterday? Did they manage to do that? Have they managed to convince us that they're not in some way behind in this race, but actually leading it?
Sure. I think they did a great job this year of showcasing their capabilities with artificial intelligence, and really, all the different types of ways that they are redefining what search really is for all of us, whether it's the overview portion within the traditional part of search, or just being able to use your phone and the video screen in order to do a search, music, and all the other ways that search is evolving, I think is what was on display yesterday.
Ayako, the stakes are pretty high, right? I was reflecting earlier in the show that the stock is up for a second day, but I think back to kind of some of the gaffes that Alphabet's had as well in demoing its generative AI tools and how that's impacted the stock. Do you think they've done enough to convince investors for the long term that yeah, we got this on a consumer-facing or business-facing AI?
I think the landscape is rapidly evolving. And so I think it's difficult to say whether or not this is, whether Alphabet or Google is really in that pole position at this point with AI. It's clearly got a much bigger competitive landscape than what was traditional search's competitive landscape. And so we'll have to see how this evolves over the coming months and years.
Many feeling on the street that they've regained the AI initiative here. Many a consumer excited by how much better Gmail is going to become, for example, and many excited that maybe Google Glass is coming for a reiteration and a modern day take. But Ayako, I'm interested ultimately as to whether this actually adds to revenue, adds to future profitability for a business when they're undercutting on a price perspective significantly OpenAI's offering.
Absolutely. And then, the cost of, all of this AI, integrating it into all the different programs that they will have, all the different offerings that they'll have, is still going to continue to increase. And we saw that with the most recent quarter and their increase in capital spending for 2024. So we'll have to see how this really shapes up from a financial perspective, both on the top line side, from a revenue perspective, as well as just the overall impact to earnings.
Kara mentioned something really interesting, which is hardware's kind of back, and Meta and the Ray-Bans is coming up every week on the show. If you're an investor and a portfolio manager, do you sit at your desk in the morning and go, you know what? I got to get the research desk on this hardware thing, on the hardware use case of AI?
I'm not sure if I'm cool enough to, get all of the hardware, whether it's Google Glass or Meta's Ray-Bans. But, I think everybody's looking for that next killer sort of technology, whether it's hardware or software. And, that's the portion that I think everybody's still looking for when it comes to generative AI.
Also, I think many forget that there is a weight on Google's shoulders here. They cannot roll out products in quite the same fast pace as a more startup version of a generative AI bid is at the moment, because they've got billions of users. And already we've seen them rush, many would say, the image generation side of the equation, and look at the backlash they got for that with Gemini. How much are you frustrated, though, by the fact that they're talking up a lot of things that then sort of leave for our imagination as and when they're going to be in our hands?
It is a level of frustration when it comes to the overall communication from Google. I think they are in a rush because they're in a position to sort of protect what they have and the pole position that they're in regarding search. So, we'll see if they've kind of been able to refine some of that going forward. I think the most recent Google I/O yesterday really showed that they were at least able to refine it from last year. And so we'll see if that continues next year.